There's been a ton of automotive news so far in 2022, from car releases to EPA crackdowns and the ever-rising talk about electric vehicles pretty much taking over. It seems like every time a new piece of media drops or news drops, especially one that could have a negative impact on what we know and love of modifying our cars, it seems that the whole internet just goes into a flat spin. The end of everything we love and know is coming to an end, oh no, and typically, after a week, everything just dies out and people are done trying to cancel companies and the world just kind of seems to go back to whatever normal that we now call normal. One event that we recalled not too long ago was one that you were probably familiar with. The headlines started hitting the internet in the form of news articles, automotive blog pages, and of course, Facebook groups and forums. JDM Car Importers Arrested after Florida revokes 400 illegal titles. Damn. That's some crazy stuff. Of course, instantly, other news outlets and other automotive media sources grabbed onto the news and started reporting stories on what was actually going on. And for the most part, I think they did a pretty decent job explaining what the hell was actually happening. Like, that's a pretty big headline to just go out there with. However, as the internet does, and what the internet does best, people started losing their damn minds. Holy shit, they're going to crush all these cars. How could they do this? What the hell is wrong with our government? Facebook groups and comments in the articles were going crazy. The story broke around the middle of March, and one of the major articles that was circulating at the time was from Rob Stump from The Drive. Probably one of the most referenced and shared articles out there of the whole situation right now. It included official statements from the Florida Highway Patrol, as well as the list of cars and VIN numbers that were affected by all of this. So what exactly happened? What caused all these cars to have their titles revoked? Well, the story starts with a little vehicle importer based in Florida known as Soho Imports. It started right about 12 years ago in Pembroke Pines, Florida, by a couple by the name of Andres Diaz and Nicole Chung. Most notably known for importing desirable Japanese cars that were not available to the US market. Now, I'm sure we're all familiar with this little law that the United States has for importing vehicles from outside the United States. Known to most of us as the 25-year law, it states that any vehicle over 25 years old is able to be legally imported to the US without having to meet United States vehicle regulations. So cars like R32 GTRs, most recently like the R33, Toyota Supra, FDR X7, etc. And as years go on, more and more vehicles start to become available for import. So what all went wrong here? Well, on July 27th, 2021, the Florida State Department of Highway and Motor Vehicles ordered an immediate suspension of the license for Soho Imports, pretty much immediately closing their doors, taking their dealer license, and launching a full-scale investigation into the company. The investigation uncovered 348 vehicles that had been imported and sold between November of 2014 and October of 2020 that were subject to fraud title applications. So just under 6 years of fraudulent import tactics. On March 7th, 2022, Andres and Nicole were arrested by Florida officials. Real quick, before we continue with the video, I just wanted to announce that we have our very own car show coming up next month. That's right, we're hosting a car show. We want you guys there. June 25th at the Resch Center in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Come hang out with all of us, look at some killer cars and explore in the vast old Midwest a little bit. I mean, Green Bay is kind of cool. It's right across from Lambeau Field, which is pretty neat. Anyway, check out the showcase event down in the description below. Hope to see you there. The list of almost 400 imported Japanese cars shows fraudulent titling for a ton of different platforms, from Honda Civics, R34 GTRs, 180s, Chasers, 350Zs, Mitsubishi Evos. And you might be thinking, hold on, a lot of those cars are like a lot newer than 25 years old. And yes, you would be correct. Even though these cars aren't 25 years old, there's still a way for them to enter the United States through the show or display exemption, which would be legal. What this is a rule permitting entry of non-conforming motor vehicles, such as cars that are not 25 years old, for the purpose of show or display. So let's say you're using this as a strict show car, or maybe a strict track car that never really sees the streets. This rule became effective actually back in 1999, which is why we do see cars like S15s and R34s and whatnot in motorsports events, and sometimes going up for auction. You're like, how the hell is that even here? However, this is something that you or an importer must apply for. Not only that, you have to establish that the car is either a historical piece or has some sort of technological significance, basically saying that the car is like really damn cool because it's like really rare, or it was really well known for something like a movie or something like that. This is where the whole thing comes crashing down. Soho Imports were forging all of these documents, from titles to names to addresses, DOT certificates, you name it, which is like a big no-no, all right? Not a good idea to go forging this type of paperwork. The federal government gets a little upset when they do that, and then they find out, which they more than likely will find out. They're the federal government after all. And after 6 years, they finally got busted, which led to hundreds of cars having their titles revoked and owners waking up to probably the worst email or letter that you can ever receive about a car that you own. So now what? What's happening to the cars? Are they all getting crushed? Are they all like getting impounded? What's exactly going on? Well, like I said before, that's immediately what everyone thought. Weird, right? Unlike the internet to automatically resort to the worst possible scenario. Shout out to Tommy Effia on a video he released in April talking about this and what he knew from some of the people that he had actually talked to that were actually being affected by all of this happening. He said a lot of the facts straight right away. Some really good insight there, and I'll link that video down in the description if you want to check it out. But basically, to make a long freaking story short, there is no true conclusion yet as to what's going to happen. Some of these cars could be written off as track use only, and the owners really don't have to worry about it. And other possible outcomes that could come down the pipeline, there are possibilities of the car having to be sent back or sold back to the countries that they were originally purchased from. Or, yes, worst case scenario, some of them might end up being seized and possibly crushed, which, yeah, sucks, right? I mean, that's heartbreaking. And could you imagine buying one of your dream cars finally just to find out that it was like a shady import deal and now you have to like watch that thing be taken or destroyed? Now, am I saying all 400 or so of these cars are going to meet their demise? Absolutely not. More than likely, they're going to be just fine. I could not imagine that really happening. From all of our research and outreach that we could have done, we really couldn't get any real up-to-date information as far as what was going on with these cars right at this time, as there's not been a conclusion made yet, like really on this whole situation. I actually reached out to the Deputy Communications Director of the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicle, which is probably the most scary email I've ever sent. And since, you know, they were the ones handling this case and they basically confirmed everything that we had already found from reading the article from The Drive and other public documents that were already made, you know, available to us. However, they did say, quote unquote, the department's criminal investigation is not yet complete, but the full investigative report and its contents will be made public as soon as it's over. Basically saying that there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be taken care of before any conclusions are made, which makes sense. So, one of the other things that sparked from all this happening is that people who do own an imported vehicle, maybe they just bought it from somewhere, or were looking at purchasing, you know, one of these kind of cars, were holding their breath a bit. They were kind of like a little scared. They were unsure if they were going to get a letter any day now, or they had to be worried about purchasing some sort of imported car because, you know, someone might be trying to ditch one that is affected. So, here's the thing. I can pretty much confidently tell you that no more vehicles will be added to this list as they've already been made public. These are the vehicles that they're looking at least not from this specific importer. And if you're looking at buying a vehicle that's already imported, just cross-reference that VIN to the cars on the list. That will tell you right away. And if they're not willing to give you the VIN for the car you're looking at, that's already a red flag that you should be looking at. Unfortunately, you know, this isn't the first time something like this has happened, especially, you know, with a large scale such as this. And I'm sure it won't be the last, which sucks. And as we hopefully find out more information here with the next coming months, we'll make sure to do an update video for you guys. But that's all we know so far. It was very interesting to take a look into. I suggest that you guys go read some articles for yourself, get up to date on this stuff because it is really interesting. And unfortunately, it kind of sucks because some people were really affected by this and could possibly lose their cars, but only time will tell. But like I said, as we get more information, we'll possibly do an update video on this. Who knows when that investigation is going to be completed. But in the meantime, if you guys are looking for any wheels, tires, or suspension, feel free to check out fitmentindustries.com. And of course, check out the articles and other resources that we use to make this video down in the description below. I'm Giles. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. It helps us out a ton so we can keep making videos just like this. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.